Resilience under environmental pressure. The life history and habits of the ephedridae by Shawn Abraham. The ephedridae, the shore flies or brine flies, are a diverse family of higher flies that are perhaps best known for fascinating behavior and tolerating extreme environments. The family contains approximately 2,000 species and has representatives of almost every functional feeding group. Often small and dark in coloration, members of the ephedridae are well adapted to life in or near water, seemingly regardless of salinity, ephemerality, or flow rate. The ephedridae includes a few economically important crop and greenhouse pests, and many species act as important trophic links between primary producers and high-level consumers such as fish or birds. A part of the brachus or shore flies generally range from 1 to 11 millimeters long and light gray to black in coloration. Adults are recognized by their relatively large heads with bulging faces, as well as large mouth openings, the lack of an anal cell in the wing, and 2 breaks in the anterior wing margin. Commonly, antennal aristae are bare or dorsally plumose. Aquatic or semi-aquatic shorefly adults have dense setae, which create a physical gill, and in combination with a hydrophobic cuticular layer, prevent the flies from wetting during aquatic foraging. Species that are aquatic or semi-aquatic as adults have long, hooked tarsal claws for crawling along substrate without being pulled to the surface by the buoyancy of their surface-attached bubbles.
I remember when my grandmother died, she was sitting in a chair and had a nap and never woke up. And the last time I saw him, I saw my grandfather, and he said, well, he says, you won't see me again. And I said, well, and he was right, I didn't.
The main attraction is a large concrete structure that intersects the area.
What is the structure's purpose?
The structure's main purpose is irrelevant.
The structure's main purpose is irrelevant, some banal and vital infrastructure. Its secondary purpose is what is important.
What is that?
The structure is cold and smooth
against your bare hands and back.
It is best used when the rain has changed the concrete's color.
Can you shimmy?
You can shimmy.
Where can you shimmy?
You can shimmy with spread legs down to the end where the most explicit and interesting writing is.
If I was there, I would write about the shapes I see when I press my fingers into my eyes.
What else would you write?
Maybe I could write a perfectly insignificant poem about cutting off my ponytail.
I would write about a section of stubble on a bald man's head.
Could the man have ripped out his hair, leaving no stubble but just bleeding hair sockets?
How come it's always slippery organs and bent hair strings with you?
You don't like my guttural imaginings?
I imagine the fruit fragments spread throughout strawberry ice cream.
Fuck strawberry ice cream.
What does the sweat from an ice cream pail taste like?
It tastes like the slippery sexual encounters of disillusioned cows.
Are they disillusioned because
they cannot imagine an industrial reciprocating saw slicing through their ribs while their body flops around on a hook?
Do you think it is kind to entertain the pigs waiting in the slaughterhouse?
Maybe they want to revel in the anticipation.
The full volume of emotions one must feel before their death.
What do you think their bodies do to prepare?
Their hearts rush to reach the contracted number of contractions.
Their skin begins to sag as it finally gives in to the flesh's urge to expand.
Their sweat
pools around the base of those short little hairs.
But the nose does not give up. It unafraid describes the bile that migrates to the floor in a nearby room.
But really it's not about their bodies, right?
What is it about?
It's about the incredible experience that leads to the abyss.
The pig abyss?
You know, the cavernous commode
that waits for the next violent excretion of pig souls.
When you imagine that, are you looking down at the pig souls, or are you floating among them?
A friend of mine that had liver disease, that he first got in high school, and it says, well, you're going to die probably by the time you're 30. You know, he's in his 30s, and he just started doing liver transplants, because he was one of the first people to get a liver transplant. I remember when he first told me, he says, yeah, I'm gonna get a liver transplant. I was like, holy shit, are you kidding me? That sounds crazy. They do that stuff? I mean, that's for whatever reason. And I don't know, they were still experimenting, and he rejected his first liver rejected. So he actually went back and had a second transplant. I don't know whether his body was, even with the drugs, was still rejecting. So that one rejected too. And then basically he said, well, that's it. You're done. Nothing more we can do. We're not going to, so he was like 43 when he died. But he said, yeah, I got 10 more years than I should have.
In terms of life cycle, shoreflies often develop rapidly and have a high intrinsic rate of population growth, due to the often ephemeral availability of nutrients in their habitats and their small size. Under greenhouse conditions, many species can complete a life cycle in under 14 days. Colin and Shearing in 1982 found that Scutella picea eggs hatch in 1 to 3 days after being laid, develop through 3 larval instars, 3 to 8 days, before pupating in the soil. Adults emerge from pupae after another 3 to 6 days, living for several weeks. After mating, females lay up to 1,400 eggs over a 10 to 14 day oviposition period. The study also summarized several other ephedrid life cycles, suggesting that the most common life strategy in the family is rapid production of multiple generations per year. More recently, another study described the life cycle of a different member of Scutella, S. paludum, finding comparable generation times but decreased total egg production compared to S. picea.
I hope you have a night beside a campfire.
I hope the sparks burn you when you aren't paying attention.
I will imagine you
attacking me with a burning stick.
You will hear your bones crack and find yourself on the ground.
You might finally speak.
It comes
this
out,
disgusting sentence is like a breach of the human contract.
Really, it's a truth.
Then I will walk through the charcoal brush.
To a bridge built over the constricted limb of a lake.
Exhausted,
I leaned against the railing and felt it register my weight.
Head on my arms, I
could see the black glass and concentric light.
Cataloging my confrontations with reality.
I stayed
in that melancholic longing.
Until it escaped me.
Was that a climax?
You mean did I climax?
When does a
sci-fi character climax?
At the end of the second act, when they are overcome by some great but vague knowledge.
Like that when they die,
they will essentially become a collection of bouncy balls fighting for survival in the dryer.
Maybe their death is a better climax.
And the knowledge of their looming death is the beginning of a concerted effort by all parties involved to come close to, but not yet reach the moment when they lose control of their organs.
What a tiring endeavor to repeatedly come close to the edge. Maybe death is better when it is a surprise climax.
Maybe for you.
Like for my friend, like I gave the eulogy at we did a service for him, and I did the eulogy, and then we had a bunch of people come up and speak and talk about him, and how he had affected us, and you're doing it for the people that are left, You do remember that? I mean, I certainly remember that was almost 30 years ago. Because I had another friend that died. He had a heart attack. He was dropped dead. But I did the eulogy at his funeral too. Man, I don't know why I keep asking me to do the eulogies. Holy shit. The first one I wrote myself. Second one, his wife, they're good friends of ours, and she said, well, we'd like you to do the eulogy, and we're going to write it, and you just have to read it. So that's what I did, and I read it, and that's fine. And I regret now, like I had stories about him that I wish I had just stopped reading and just told a story about him.
Seasonal abundances vary, but the multivoltine nature and at least partially detritivorous habits of most ephedrids means that they are typically present in temperate environments once primary producers end their winter dormancy. Collins in 1975 and 1977 measured the seasonal abundances of 5 shorefly species in Yellowstone National Park and found that in low productivity alkaline hot springs, dominant species changes seasonally, while in high productivity springs, a single species dominates year-round. Shoreflies, whose larvae inhabit anaerobic substrate, have seasonal patterns correlating with oxygen availability. Larvae of notiphilous species use modified spiracular spines to access oxygen from the roots of emergent vegetation, and thus in the northern hemisphere, overwintered larvae move to these roots in spring, adults emerge in June, eggs hatch by midsummer, and final insect larvae overwinter.
Would you rather be prepared for those transformative moments?
I would rather
not die.
When I do die, I hope my legacy is a poorly placed bench near a mosquito-filled forest.
I hope my family remembers me.
I hope my family remembers me every time they eat blue jello.
I'm sure even the sight of blue jello will fill them with a perverse sadness.
Maybe your legacy will be related to cured meats made from exotic animals.
Like tiger bologna?
The processed meat of a great beast.
Like an old man biting down on his dentures to prevent their glorious escape.
Is your death about you?
It's about all the email advertising that will now go to a dormant account.
Maybe their algorithms will transcend the abyss to suggest the perfect product.
One day, all of those people you admire on the internet will die never knowing you so strongly related to them.
There may be bugs in my veins.
Did you think there would ever be a definitive moment of mutual understanding?
Maybe
mystery makes the best meat.
Is there as many bugs in this meat as in your veins?
Really, it makes all the scratching seem pointless.
Are you denting your skull to try and free the fluid inside?
But that fluid tastes good, doesn't it?
Just think what the repairman will do.
In his sterile room, with assistance from his intern, he goes at your skull from the inside with a mallet.
I hope he slips and my skull cracks.
Don't tell him
about the bugs in your veins.
He wants to extract them with his sticky tongue.
He doesn't believe us.
I know more than him and his stale assistant.
That lady has a lisp.
And she is demeaning.
They stink like a sweaty gardener snake.
If I bend my neck back far enough, it becomes hard to breathe.
If I sleep with my arms up, my hands go numb.
Have you ever sculpted the top of your fingernails?
I am more of a toenail kind of person.
Yeah, it's pretty. We did that with my brother-in-law when he died. And he died at home, and we were all there, so we were helping my sister. So, like, it got to the point where we had someone there all night, right? Because basically they give you drugs that well, the drugs there's the painkillers, and then there's drugs that they give you for anti-anxiety, because like dying is kind of traumatic, like, so they give you these, well, it's like Ativan, I think it's Ativan, or it's like a barbiturate, right, that is calming, because trying to reduce the anxiety.
Extreme environments. The Ephedridae are best known as flies that thrive in high-stress environments. Some shore flies, like Ephedra bruazi, Paracoenia turbida, and Lamproscatella dichita, are adapted to life in thermal springs with high dissolved mineral content and alkaline pH. Others specialize on acidic thermal springs, such as Ephedra thermophila and Scatella paludum, while members of Diasmosera petrolii spend their larval instars in naturally occurring open pools of petroleum.
Once I had a sticky leather love seat.
My left arm became sore from the lopsided support.
I must have been difficult to be around.
Because of how sweaty you made that seat.
Because I constantly needed to overstimulate myself.
I remember you could be sharp, or maybe just insensitive.
Selfish,
that whole boyish cliche.
Like the big globe in movie trailers.
More like an aquatic spike bomb.
Like an exploding porcupine?
Like the porcupine I ran over?
Like the moon icon on a Nintendo game?
Like passing on the highway.
The images in my head are no longer grotesque.
I miss their chastising perverseness.
Are you working on a cover-up for the bright lights?
Is that the right thing to do?
You wouldn't have to lie as often.
But then I'm afraid of someone stealing from me.
Stealing your bread knife?
Stealing my X-Acto knife.
Touching your spoon?
My
stovetop.
Your bolts?
My best work
started with the bolts.
What is the value of misleading?
Same as that of misremembering.
It's so hard because you can't be there. Like they can't. Like people are having to die alone. Ultimately you're alone when you die, but it helps as much as it can to have other people there with you. Not that they can do anything about it other than just be there. I remember talking to him after that, and he said, that's life. And and he was pretty incredible about it.
H. petrolii larvae do not intentionally ingest petroleum, but acquire it in the gut through feeding on dead and dying organisms that fall into the sticky oil and cannot escape. They move to the soil to pupate, and adults do not forage in petroleum. Heat tolerance, an ability to feed on grazing-resistant cyanophytes, and an increased ability to avoid wetting when in contact with mineral or acidic water are common traits of ephedras that thrive in these habits. Like most adult insects, the outside of shorefly cuticle is covered in waxy hydrocarbon secretions. The composition of the cuticular wax varies from species to species, and in a recent study was found to affect the ability of the alkali fly, Cirilla hyans, to stay dry in alkaline saltwater solution. The secretions did not affect the ability of C. hyans or other non-diving pubescent flies to remain unwetted in pure water, suggesting that cuticular layer composition confers the resistance to wetting that is in many cases specific to adult ephedras living in salt marshes or other saline habits.
The thing that I value most is cold air.
Because your skin feels smoother?
Because it reminds me of an indescribable way of being.
How bleak.
Are you afraid you will forget where you are and will strangle someone to death? Because it might happen overcome by
because
some
it might
great
happen.
apathy,
Overcome by the great
find
apathy, you
yourself
might find yourself pressing someone's esophagus into their spine.
Their
head wobbling and wild.
You might be kneeling,
in their blood.
I'll be so sick.
I will throw up in their face.
They won't even flinch.
Because
they're dead.
Was it my fault?
Was it my fault?
I mean, it was my fault.
There is no way to prove I won't kill someone.
You could be cracking
small
neck bones
right now.
In some
delusional haze.
What do they feel? Do they regret not knowing this could happen?
What do you think
will drive you to this irrevocable violence?
Wet bed sheets.
Surely your cum stains are plain to see.
But maybe the higher the thread count, the more absorbent.
I'm too tired to contemplate this.
You expect that it's going to pass and that will, you'll sort of get over it, but you never do. Like it's always there, and it maybe gets a little softer, but it never goes away, and like I occasionally have dreams about this person, the person that I know, people that I know that have died, and it's like, you're in this dream with this person, and then you wake up and go, I just dreamt about that person, and he's been dead for 10 years or something, it's like, and there we were doing shit in this dream. Like, I used to think that, there's like this eternity before your life, then there's your life, and then there's this eternity after. And well, I don't know I don't remember. I have no idea about the eternity before because I wasn't around. So I think the eternity after is going to be much different because I'm not going to be around.
In their natural environment, alkali flies live in Mono Lake, a saline soda lake in California, USA. They eat cyanobacteria that forms films on the underwater limestone tufa, resisting the amplified wetting of sodium carbonate salts. The tolerance of sea hyenas to these conditions is so remarkable, Mark Twain commented in his 1872 book, Roughing It, quote, "You can hold them under the water as long as you please. They do not mind it. They are only proud of it. When you let them go, they pop up to the surface as dry as a patent office report and walk off unconcernedly, as if they had been educated especially with a view to affording instructive entertainment to man that particular way."